Imagine a world where China quietly and methodically unlocks the secret to producing the most advanced chip technology on Earth, chips as small as 3 nanometers without anyone noticing, a world where they don't just catch up in the tech race but silently overtake the West with little fanfare. It might sound far-fetched, but it's unfolding right now. Huawei, once cornered by sanctions, has reportedly started trial runs with its own EUV machine, a move that could completely transform the semiconductor sector. This isn't just an industry update, it's a potential turning point for the future of global technology, with semiconductors being the foundation of everything from mobile devices and electric cars to artificial intelligence and defense systems. Control over chip production means power. For decades, Western nations, particularly the United States and European countries, have held the lead in semiconductor innovation, and manufacturing companies like Intel and TSMC have been the giants at the forefront of this technological frontier, and the core of this dominance has been access to extreme ultraviolet lithography. This form of lithography allows manufacturers to produce chips on a near-atomic scale, enabling the creation of 7 nanometer, 5 nanometer, and even 3 nanometer circuits, shrinking computing components to sizes previously thought impossible. However, there's a catch: China has been left out of this elite club. Since 2020, US sanctions have effectively blocked Chinese companies, including Huawei and SMIC, from acquiring the advanced EUV machines needed to produce these ultra-small chips. The most advanced of these machines are made by the Dutch firm ASML, and due to political pressure, sales to China were halted. Many experts believe this restriction would hold China back for years, if not decades. Conventional wisdom said that without EUV, China simply couldn't keep pace in the race to develop cutting-edge chips. It was widely assumed that the country's progress would stagnate while the rest of the world continued to surge ahead. But in early 2025, the entire tech industry was stunned by a development few saw coming. Huawei announced that it had begun testing its own EUV machine, built domestically and tested at its facility in Dongguan. The implications are massive. Respected sources in the tech world have verified the news, and according to the timeline shared, trial production is expected in the third quarter of 2025, followed by full-scale production in 2026. If successful, this would signal a seismic shift in chip making. It's not just about catching up, it's about challenging the monopoly that ASML currently holds and potentially leading a new wave of innovation that doesn't depend on Western suppliers. To really understand how this happened, we have to rewind a bit. Back in 2019, Huawei was on top of the world. It had emerged as a global leader in smartphones and was rapidly expanding into 5G networks, but that changed when the United States labeled the company a national security threat, cutting it off from crucial components and technologies that it depended on. These sanctions also affected Huawei's chip supplier SMIC, which was left using older deep ultraviolet lithography technology, only capable of producing chips at 7 nanometers and above. While the West raced forward to 3 nanometer processes and beyond, it seemed like China's most powerful tech firms were stuck in the past. However, rather than accept defeat, Huawei pivoted hard. It poured billions into research and development, built specialized teams, and began laying the groundwork for a fully self-reliant chip ecosystem. The result of this massive effort might be the LBP-based EUV machine that's now under test. So what is LBP, and why does it matter? Traditional EUV machines like those from ASML use a method called laser-produced plasma. This involves firing a powerful laser at molten tin droplets, which generates extreme ultraviolet light at a precise wavelength needed to etch extremely fine patterns onto silicon wafers. Huawei's new system, however, uses a different approach called laser-induced discharge plasma, which vaporizes tin using electrodes and then excites it with a high-voltage pulse to create the EUV light. This method is less complex, more compact, and significantly cheaper than the traditional machines, which can cost upwards of $350 million per unit. Reports suggest that the LBP-based system being tested in Dongguan could bring the cost of entry into EUV technology down dramatically, allowing more manufacturers to access it. If proven effective, this shift could fundamentally change the economics of chip production, giving rise to new players and diminishing the dominance of legacy firms like ASML. Huawei isn't going it alone on this journey. SMIC is also involved, with both companies pushing forward in sync, and this isn't just about producing new hardware. Research groups in Harbin and other tech hubs across China are working on complementary breakthroughs, including improved light sources and better photomasks. All of these efforts point to a larger coordinated strategy to leap from 7 nanometer technology to 3 nanometer production in record time. So why is the 3nm milestone such a big deal? The answer lies in performance. Smaller chips mean you can pack more transistors into a smaller area, which translates into more power, less heat, and better efficiency. It means that your phone could run AI models directly on device without needing to connect to a cloud. It means autonomous cars could process data faster and more accurately. It could even push quantum computing closer to reality. Until now, TSMC and Intel have been leading this domain. TSMC, for example, has been making 3nm chips for major clients like Apple, while Intel is betting heavily on these chips to make a comeback. But if Huawei and SMIC can reliably produce 3nm chips domestically, it wouldn't just be an achievement, it would rewrite the entire script. Huawei wouldn't just be rejoining the global chip race, it would be helping to redefine it. This raises huge questions for the industry. If China's new EUV technology is successful, what happens to ASML's monopoly? What happens to the US strategy of using technology restrictions as a means of maintaining control over global innovation? What happens when a cheaper, simpler alternative becomes available to nations and companies that previously had no access at all? Of course, there are still major challenges ahead. Even if Huawei's machine works on paper, the real test lies in production. Yields must be high enough to be commercially viable. Technical issues could delay mass rollout, and it remains to be seen whether LDP technology can match the precision and throughput of ASML's well-tested systems. For now, companies like Intel and TSMC aren't panicking, but they are watching. The most interesting part of all this is how the sanctions that were supposed to isolate and suppress China's technology sector may have had the opposite effect. By cutting off access to key components, the West inadvertently forced China to innovate. The result is a fast-growing domestic industry with serious potential. According to recent statements, Huawei's founder told Chinese leadership that the worst of the chip crisis is behind them. Even Nvidia has cautioned that Huawei's AI chips could soon rival its own offerings. At the same time, China still faces an uphill climb. Scaling production is a different beast than building a prototype. The entire support structure for chip development, from raw materials to talent to software ecosystems, still favors the West, but the rate at which China is advancing is a clear sign that it's serious about changing that. In recent months, Huawei has been hiring aggressively in Shanghai and other cities, pulling in global experts to work on developing next-generation lithography equipment from scratch. The company is betting big on self-reliance, and with national policy backing that push, it's not hard to see how this story could unfold over the next few years. The goal isn't just to catch up with the West, it's to build something entirely new and maybe even better. This isn't just a story about chip making, it's a broader tale about control, independence, and the future of innovation. For a long time, the West held the keys to the world's most important technology, but now those keys may be slipping into new hands. Huawei's EUV trial is real, and the goal of producing 3nm chips in China is no longer a distant dream, but a fast-approaching reality. Whether or not China succeeds in rewriting the rules of the game is still up in the air, but what's certain is that the game itself has already changed. By the time trial production begins later this year, we may have a much clearer picture of where things are headed, and if the early signs are any indication, the rest of the world should be paying very close attention.